Hello and welcome to the program. I am Adeshawa Josh. First, let me say happy Easter Monday. Before we take you around the world to see what's been happening there so far, we'll start in South Korea, where almost 1 week after the South Korean ferry mishap, President Park Geun-hye has condemned the conduct of some of the crew, likening the scenario to murder. Ms. Park also vowed that those to blame would have to take criminal and civil responsibility for their actions. Meanwhile, divers are continuing to recover bodies from the ferry as they gain access to more of the submerged hull. The death toll now stands at 64, with 238 people still missing, most of them students from a school near Seoul.
About a week after a disaster that could probably have been prevented if more caution was taken, it doesn't come as a surprise that the South Korean president has condemned the actions of the crew members.
The action of the captain and some of the crewmen was incomprehensible from a common-sense point of view, and it was like an act of murder that must not be tolerated. The government will force those responsible to face criminal and civil charges regardless of their ranks.
The Seawall ferry was on a routine 400-kilometer voyage from Incheon to the southern holiday island of Jeju in calm weather on Wednesday, April the 16th, carrying 476 passengers and crew. Among them were 339 children and teachers on a high school outing. Divers have been returning the bodies of passengers of the ill-fated ferry to South Korea's southwestern shore. On Sunday, South Korean prosecutors investigating last week's ferry disaster said they wanted to extend the detention of the captain and 2 other crew members as they tried to determine the cause of an accident that likely claimed more than 300 lives. The captain and 2 other crew members have been charged with negligence of duty and violation of maritime law. It's little comfort for the parents and relatives of the missing on the dock, as they can do nothing but wait for the almost inevitable news that their loved ones have died. 64 people in total are known to have died right now, and 238 are still missing.
Well, to shed more light on the South Korea ferry mishap, our correspondent Cynthia Are spoke with the Voice of America's Daniel Sheff, who is monitoring the event. Well, he explained the situation to us, beginning with statements made by the South Korean president on the matter. Take a listen.
About a week after a disaster that could probably have been prevented if more caution was taken, it doesn't come as a surprise.
Well, according to the media reports, the captain and several crew members were among the first to leave the ship as it was sinking. And the question really is, did they give enough notification to passengers that they also needed to abandon ship? Now, they say that they did give notice to abandon ship at a certain point. But passengers who survived the ferry sinking say that this information was not handed out to passengers. It was not announced. So there is a bit of a conflict there in the testimony. But it seems that from the eyewitness accounts of those who were on the ship and from President Park's own statement that they've made a very clear conclusion that not enough notice was given, that these men were in fact saving their own skins without responsibility for those on board the ship. They are facing charges of negligence and also there are violating maritime laws. So from what I understand from South Korean reports, the captain in particular could numerous years in prison if found guilty. So we'll have to wait and see when the full investigation is carried out. We've got at least 6 crew members now who are facing charges alongside the captain. One report I read earlier today said that about 40 crew members altogether have been told that they're not allowed to travel outside of the country while the investigations are taking place. So some very thorough work ahead for South Korean authorities to come to the bottom of this, exactly what happened and who is responsible. Yeah, from the reports that were made in the testimony by the captain himself, he was not at the helm of the ship at the time of the disaster. It's not exactly clear who was in charge. There were some conflicting reports about who was at the helm, but it does indicate that the captain was not the one in charge at the moment of steering the ship. It's not uncommon for a captain to turn over the helm to a lower-ranking officer when on a ship.
Okay.
But the real question is, were they handling the ship responsibly? Were emergency procedures being followed the way they were supposed to? And were they prepared to evacuate in a proper manner? Or was it as chaotic as some of the transcripts of the communications appear to indicate between the ship and the shore? Once they've recovered all of the remains of those who have perished in this terrible tragedy, the issue is not just a matter of who was responsible. And of course, after we have the recovery of the remains, a full investigation is going to take place not only of who was responsible, but also the ship itself, how structurally intact it was, whether or not this ship is one that is fit for this kind of service, or whether it was too old and needs to be replaced by a more modern passenger ferry. So all these questions are being raised after this terrible tragedy.